final 3. AJ Mando on 92, same two with Mitch to round off your top 5. Avetchi, George, Bearmeister, Royal, and Team Red. Mike, of course, better known as, to round off your top 10. Of course, as I always do say, let me know if you cannot hear me and if I'm talking absolute waffle, because, again, I don't really know how the stream is performing. I'm always new to this, and we're trialing something new in terms of Discord today. So if anything does crop up that you would like to signal to me, definitely do not hesitate to leave a comment in the YouTube chat. However, more about the penalty point system, because those of them that have it, particularly most notably David DePay, Lazy but Talented, and AJ Mando on 2, 1, and 4 respectfully. I've got a bit of insight information, of course, from Royal, who runs things here for the League of MVP. The way the qualifying sort of bans and things work, also with the penalty points, is the sense that if you're a bit of a muppet and you make a mistake and you cause an incident, the way it goes like this is there's 3 sort of categories, sort of green, amber, red, I suppose, if you want to call it that. A light incident, sort of maybe just tapping someone, or maybe causing a little bit of rear wing damage, or something along those lines, right? That would be a time penalty added on to the end of your race, which is, yeah, fair enough, absolutely. Slap on the wrist, don't do that again. You would not receive a penalty point, though. A moderate incident, say you're amber, maybe if you cause someone to spin or something along those lines, would be then a time penalty as well as a 1 penalty point added to your total. Then you get a severe incident. These are like the really bad ones. These are like, say, if you sort of crash into someone and cause them to retire from the race, or cause a massive pile-up, that sort of thing, that sort of area. That would be a time penalty plus 2 penalty points. And of course, how the penalty points work is they're a cumulative total over the course of the whole season. So they're added up as the rounds go on. So if you get a 1 in round 1 and 1 in round 10 and 1 in here and there, they will add up. They don't renew mid-season. They renew at the end of the season, as far as I'm aware. And the way they work is 2 penalty points. Say if you cause a severe incident or 2 moderate incidents, you would get yourself a qualifying ban, which means you would not be able to take part in the following qualifying session, like we're seeing here with David DePay, Unbeaten, and Bearmeister. All of them guys are unable to set a lap time, forcing them to start to the back of the grid. 3 penalty points, that results in a race ban, which means you would have to skip a round. Funnily enough, that's what race ban means, which means you wouldn't be able to take part, you would void that round, you would lose any points that you would have scored, and then you'll be able to come back for the following round. 5 penalty points in the entirety of the season, so obviously that means you've been a very, very naughty boy. That would be the admins take a look at you, they review your season, they review your case, and they would review your position in the league. And you're someone that's gotten 5 penalty points in the span of a couple of races, you're probably not someone they really want on the circuit, which speaks for itself in all fairness. And well, as I was saying, in terms of those that are starting towards the back of the field, we have David DePay, Bearmeister, and Unbeaten, as I say. And the way it works is the person that got the penalty first would be the person that was able to start at the furthest, highest point on the field. So David DePay will start 3rd last, Bearmeister 2nd last, and then, of course, Unbeaten, who will start dead last in this race. Also, following Austria, AJ passed 3 penalty points, which unfortunately has seen him tick over into a race ban for today. And, well, that is suboptimal, considering his point in the championship is, well, 4th as it stands, and, well, only about 26 points off the actual total championship lead. So AJ Mando, unfortunately, his championship hopes are dwindling very, very, very quickly, which is a bit of a shame, of course. But we turn our attention, of course, back into qualifying. 18 minutes on the clock, and while I've been waffling, I've managed to kill about 7 of those. Snoopy Dread at the moment sets the benchmark of 1:32.835, closely followed by Cammy up there in the house with a 1:33.072. Then Smidge, Lazy Bits, Hansen, and Mitch to round off your provisional top 5. We'll bring up all the snazzy stuff as they come. We'll get up all the sort of the telemetry and things, and if I want to press the right buttons, that would be very, very helpful. We'll enable that, disable that, get our track map up, and make sure we can look at all the beautiful and wondrous things that go our way. Looking then at the timing sheets, and, well, as you can see, it's very, very, very close, which is awesome. Do love that. And obviously, qualifying is quite important here. I would argue. I'd say qualifying definitely does, add up and means something around Shanghai. Yes, of course, you've got that massive straight on, that run in towards turn 14. However, you know, it can be a little bit tricky to pass around here, even in the virtual world. I mean, there are plenty of ways to get it done, but it does help to start towards the front of the field, just to have that track position, just to have that security. But it has been a few years since I've touched Shanghai, let alone commentated on Shanghai, so cut me some slack. Maybe I've got it all wrong. Maybe the new generation of cars can overtake it just that little bit better. We're following on with the Red Bull of Royal. He's running his way through the middle part of the sector as it stands on his outlap, and we will take on board for a lap of the Shanghai International Circuit. Inverse of turn 1 is turn number 12 into 13. He went away very, very wide. And now down the back straight for a bit of DRS. Sneak back on an outlap as well in his bid for pole position. Hopefully during the qualifying session we can have a word with a couple of drivers and maybe get their inputs as to what could potentially happen around Shanghai and to their predictions for the race today as well. Of course, anyone in the YouTube channel, be sure to follow along, like, subscribe, turn the bell on for notifications, all that jazz. Ensure that you're commenting and engaging in good things on the work. It's a pleasure to have you on the stream, and I'd love to answer any queries or any questions or any predictions that you have. Let's start a conversation, don't be shy at all. Running aboard with Royal through the snaking turns 1 and 2, hitting a very late apex and quickly flicking to the left as he runs his way now through the very long sweeping left hand of turn number 3. Really got to get your foot to the floor and hope there is a bit of traction. Through turn 6 to round off sector number 1. Purple to the first sector goes Roy. In towards turn number 6. Hammering on the brakes and not accelerating as quickly as we can. We saw Carlos Sainz and Kvyat having a collision a few years ago back in 2019. And you sweep your way through this very, very long right-hander that then leads you into the double left-hander. Double downshift. Accelerate though flat through the second part if you're very, very committed. And the right out towards the end of sector number 2. Braking just after the 100 board. Into second gear. Trying to get the power. Try and upshift if you can. Keep that momentum flowing as you take the shortest line as possible through the ever going turn number 12 into 13. Bit of DRS from the car in front of Roy with his teammate just of Svan, giving him some lovely toes. He's going to move out of the way for his teammate though very, very late. Looking for 100 board, braking as late as you dare. There we go, down to second gear. Perfect apex from the Red Bull. Now it's all about trusting your throttle, trusting the traction, and now it's towards the final corner. Very, very quick, of course, very, very easy to get it wrong. Careful not to exceed the track on the outside. DRS open on the sprint to the line, and it's up into 4th place for Royal. Only 5/10 of a second off pole position. A very respectable time indeed from the Norwegian. So Snoopy Dread though for Aston Martin, he's about a 10th up on his previous best time as well. So we'll follow on with the Aston Martin, who's in a very, very close fight with Cammy. And well, actually speaking of close fights, I forgot to mention, of course, the Constructors' Championship. Aston Martin, as Laser talented, 3/1000ths of a second clear of Snoopy Dread. That fight for pole just got even closer. Aston Martin versus Mercedes. Talking of those two in their fight for pole, leads nicely into the Constructors' Championship actually. 20 points separate the two teams in the fight for first in the Constructors. 3 points back from Mercedes are Ferrari on 184, McLaren, AlphaTauri, Red Bull, Alfa Romeo, Alpine, Haas and Williams to round off the 10 constructors that we have, of course, here in the Formula 1 World Championship. But of course, yeah, Aston Martin on a bit of resurgence, able to take the helm and take control of the season so far. And well, can you blame them with their 2 cars inside the top 6? Same too with Ferrari actually, with AJ Mando and Mitch both in the top 5. But of course, the Mercedes crew needs a bit more consistency, needs to get their backsides in gear and hope that things can maybe take a turn for the better. Snoopy Dread with a very, very quick response actually to a 132.773. Takes back his claim for pole position. What will we see maybe from Laser Talented? Jim K25, so fair nice to go from last to first. Interesting take. To be fair, I don't necessarily know Bearmeister's pace. Per se. However, from what I've seen so far this season in terms of his podiums and his racecraft and his race pace, I can very much see that happening. I could see him definitely getting himself inside the top 10, top 5, being very, very minimal least. But maybe he can go for a podium, go for the win potentially. Again, we'll have to wait and see. Svamp there up into 3rd place. Very incredibly close. Look at that. The top, let's have a look. Top 12 separated by less than a second. From 0 to Svamp. Well, is that because the game is too loud, or is that because I'm too quiet? I'll obviously adjust and make sure that everything is all good. If you just give me a second, we'll turn the master volume down to 4, and I can turn myself up if that helps. Thank you, of course, for letting me know. I'll now just move my microphone slightly just up a little bit, so you can hear me. I don't want to drown out the cars though. I know a couple of drivers let me know, obviously, with the with the volume levels and how they want to hear the cars in the background, and maybe I'm a bit too loud relative to the cars, so it's a juggling act, but I'd rather you be able to hear me than the cars. So much better, thanks. Awesome. Thank you for letting me know, of course. And if anything does change, then do, of course, let me know, of course, in the comments. Thank you for that. That is exactly what we need. If something goes wrong, tell me. If I've been an idiot, tell me. Thank you to Jim, and of course, pleasure to have you in the stream. I don't think we've met. I think you're new to the channel, so pleasure to have you talking. Welcome in, of course. We're into the final moments of the short qualifying session. After this, we'll head into a 50% race, 27 laps to the best of my knowledge around the Shanghai International Circuit. Should be around about 40-45 minutes or so in length. And while some drivers are gearing up for their final couple of laps in the session, crunch time really is on. We've got Dino there just across the line, moves himself up into 9, demotes Royal to P10. And I know I've said it already twice, but look at how close this grid is. It's sensational as to the level of competitiveness that these drivers are putting on. I mean, we've got George, who's won a race this season. To the best of my knowledge, actually. Let me just double check that. I want to double check. We've got George. He's taken 2 second places. Has he taken a win? He has, yeah. All the way back in Zandvoort, he was able to take victory. He's taken 3 podiums this season and a race victory. And he's down in P14. Yes, of course, he still has to set another lap time, and I'm sure that's exactly what he's going to do here. But that speaks volumes as to the level of competitiveness in this field. And while they're not esports pros, while they're not going to go off and win the F1 Esports World Championship, they're close to each other. We get good racing, and I'd rather that than have someone who's sensationally quick and someone who's sensationally slow and not have any good racing. What we always get week in, week out with the League of MVP is really, really good, close, really, really enticing action that keeps you on the edge of your seat all the way throughout the race. And, well, we'll follow on with George, of course. Winner last time, a couple of times ago. About 3.5 tenths quicker into the first sector alone. He is absolutely flying. That still is not quite good enough to set a purple sector. However, we'll follow on with the Mercedes for the remainder of the lap. Through the sweeping turn number 7, you can almost take it flat if your setup is just right and the traction is just upon that limit. In towards the infield section through the left, and of course then through the other left that leads you onto this short little straight towards the end of sector 2. And we'll see what you can do to the middle sector. 6.5 tenths and purple to the middle sector. This is looking to be a pretty sensational lap from the Mercedes. Only about a couple more corners left to go. 3 more corners to be precise, and a very, very long, I think it's a 1.5 kilometer straight all the way back down to the other end of the circuit. And while this is probably where we're going to see the majority of our overtakes take place. The top 3, Snoopy, Lazy Talented and Svamp, all out back on circuit. They are separated by just over a tenth of a second. What can George do? Can he put a spanner into the works? Can he shake the apple cart just a little bit into the final corner? He's on a 34.327. He was at 7 tenths up last time we checked in, and now across the line, what can he do? And it's 4th place, 1.3 seconds quicker to bring him up to a 1:32.994. He's got to go for another lap, though, if he wants any chance of improving. However, how good are those tyres going to be is the question. Can he go for another lap? He's able to get himself onto the second row. Cammy, Mitch and Gunslinger all out onto the circuit as well. And the Aston Martin securing themselves up for another lap. Snoopy, 32.773. That is the benchmark. Svamp starting his lap. Almost about to start his lap into sector, well, the final couple of corners of sector 3. Saving his energy. Into the final corner he goes to start the lap. 3rd place, he needs a 1/10.5 improvement Probably needs a bit more than that to solidify pole position, but it could be any one of the top 4. We'll check in with George. What's he do? Yeah, he's very slow to the first sector. So that's him. P4 at the best for the Mercedes. Still a fantastic result indeed. 22 seconds left to go before the checker flag is waved. That means anyone that crossed the line after the checker flag is waved, that is it. Their qualifying session is done. But anyone starting a lap right now will get the benefit of a second or another qualifying lap. There's Svamp. That's all 1/10 he needs. Just needs a little bit more improvement if he wants to get himself onto pole position. The checker flag will wave in no time. There's the McLaren. That could be of Josh Morton spinning around through turn number 7. Not going to get in the way of Svamp at all. What's Snoopy doing? What's Lazebut's Talented doing to the first sector? Team Red up there. Snoopy Dread. Improvement to the first sector. He's got his teammate though. There's a bit of backup maybe for a bit of slipstream. Round, unfortunately, is one of the Williams. And it was Svamp actually. It was the Red Bull of Svamp that had gone round. He's bottled his lap and actually thrown it away. So now it comes down to 2. Snoopy versus Lazy. Bit of slipstream. Gaily back into the chat, cheering on their fellow countrymen. Slipstream, DRS, and a big heap of time gained. Snoopy Dread and Avecii playing the team game very, very well. In towards the final corner. Or the penultimate corners, I should say. Snoopy Dread, though, getting held up just a little bit by Avecii. That's not great and could actually hinder his run for pole. Particularly if Lazybut's Talented is on a good run. Through the final corner once more. And it's going to be a dash to the line. Is it an improvement? Is it pole position? Avecii improves to 11th place. Snoopy improves to first at 1:32.690. What can Lazybut's Talented do? He's only got one more corner left to go. Bit of an improvement from the man from the UK. Now across the line. What's it going to be? So close. A 1:32.694. 4/1000ths of a second off pole position. And that is the margins that we're talking about here. Svamp takes third. And, well, what could have been in the lap for the Red Bull had it not been for the spin through turn number 10. Brilliant qualifying session. The closest margin that I think I've ever seen in the season so far. I joined all the way back in Hungary. And, well, Snoopy Dread versus Lazybut's Talented. 4/1000ths of a second. What a battle that was. And I'm really looking forward to seeing how this race progresses now, because this is going to be a good one. Stay in your seats, ladies and gents, or, well, go and get yourself a cup of tea, because qualifying is over, so you can go get yourself some snacks, because, well, this is going to be an absolute barnstormer of an event. And I really cannot wait to see how things get on. We'll wait for the qualifying session to toll over into the results. We'll run you through the grid order, and I'll step away for just a second, grab myself a drink, grab myself a breather, and we'll be underway for the Chinese Grand Prix here for the Liga MvP Season 7, round number 10. And here they are. Snoopy Dread, the Frenchman for Aston Martin, tries to extend his championship lead at pole position. Lazybut's Talented joins him on the front row. Then comes Svamp and Cammy 3 and 4. George runs off the top 5. Mitch in 6th to keep him company on 3rd row. Smidge and Gunslinger 7th and 8th with Chicken Skin and Dino your top 10. Then comes Avecii just outside in P11. Roy, well, could have been for sure 1:33.338 sees him rounds off the 6th row of the grid. Josh Morton and Team Red keep each other company for the 7th. Then David DePay unbeaten and Bearmeister, of course. Those of them that were not able to put qualifying lap in because they were not allowed to because they have a qualifying ban. But yeah, Jim is very, very right in saying everyone that set a lap time in, the 14 drivers, all within less than a second, which definitely gears us up for what is going to be a brilliant race. My name is Zach Sweeney. I'm going to just take a step back. I'll mute my mic, of course, grab myself a drink, and I'll be back for race start here in China. And well, we are just moments away from getting ourselves underway. Green flag racing here in China. Thank you, of course, to everyone that's tuning in. Make sure to give yourself your predictions and stuff. Any comments in the YouTube chat. My name is Zach Sweeney, and well, I'll be talking you through all of the action here today. What a close qualifying we had. Everyone that set a lap time in was within a second, which definitely shows good promise going into this race. 50%, of course, about 27, 28 laps on the clock. And, well, I am really, really looking forward to this. We take ourselves to the grid and to the 5 red lights. Snoopy and Lazy But Talented, your front row. The 5 red lights are on. The 5 red lights are out. It's green flag. You put your foot to the floor, and we are underway here in China. 28 laps get underway, and now Lazy But Talented trying to put some pressure on. A good start from Snoopy, but already forced to go defensive. There's Mitch looking to the inside to try and take the podium. They run their way through turn number 1 and 2. Bit of a spin in the background. I think that might be Gunstinger going around for Alfa Romeo as they snake their way through turn number 2 as well. Already a full course caution being brought into effect. I think that is going to be a virtual safety car to halt the progress here on the opening lap. But what a good start that was from Snoopy. What a good attempt that was from Mitch. And who was it that got involved? I think Royal was in the mix as well. He's lacking a front wing. We've got Team Red Bearmeister as well. Dino maybe inside the... Yeah, there he is with no front wing as well. Maybe a bit of damage to the Alfa Romeo of Gunstinger. I saw he had a bit of contact. And, well, that is exactly what can happen when that sort of thing happens. Of course, in turn number 1 because, well, the snaking nature of it means that naturally you are going to want to try and take a wide line. Those people on the outside are swooping in, cutting in for an early apex to follow it round as tight as they can. And those on the inside might get turned across, might get tagged just a little bit. It's very long, very slow, and the concertina effect or the accordion effect where everyone jumbles back up again can very easily cause a little bit of contact. Based off Snoopy's pace, I'd assume we're going back under green flag running once more through the banking of turn number 13, and I assume the green flag will be waved in absolutely no time. Already a bit of kerfuffle in the background. What's going on there is Avecii slows down quite a lot. Everyone waiting, the back of the grid is sort of stalled in the sense that no one really knows where they're going, what they're doing. Back under green flag, of course, and, well, Lazy But Talented and Svamp and Mitch actually all trying to move past the Red Bull, who got very much caught out on the initial launch of the green flag, and, well, there we go. Mitch up into 3rd place. Snoopy Dread leads the first lap, and Mitch making a fantastic start. A couple of drivers into the pit lane. That includes Cammy, Unbeaten, Royal. Team Red, Dino also into the pit lane. 5 drivers, unfortunately, making their way down into the pits. And there's Svamp actually having a spin through turn number 1 and 2. He's found himself off the track onto the grass and now tumbling down the order. He's now side by side with the McLaren of Josh Morton. And, well, that has been from bad to worse for Svamp, who, well, unfortunately sees himself down in 7th place. What could have been maybe 2nd or 3rd. If it had just played his cards right. Getting told he got tapped, maybe, by Lazy But Talented going through turn number 1 or 2, which, again, happens, but is unfortunate. Bit of argy-bargy in the background as well between Team Red and Unbeaten, because Unbeaten has unfortunately had a spin also through turns 1 and 2. So not the best start for everyone involved, but hopefully when things settle down we can get ourselves into a rhythm and get ourselves a little bit more settled in, a little bit more able to race. And, well, maybe not. Even George sent round as well. Under power. Very easy to do, of course, particularly as the Mercedes aren't running any traction control. A little bit too eager on the loud pedal and a little bit too eager for the rear tyres to grip up. And unfortunately, the rear tyres were having none of that and completely bucked him off. Here comes Josh Morton and Svamp racing each other. Avecii and David DePay just in behind, of course. This is an Aston Martin sandwich with McLaren bread. It's not a McLaren sandwich because you don't have white bread sandwiches, you have ham sandwiches. Always something I'll come back to, but Avecii sandwiched between the 2 McLarens. Josh Morton just in front, David DePay just in behind, making some good progress, up 6 places from the back of the grid. Same too as his teammate Josh Morton. Very wide goes Avecii. Into turn number 3. Their way out back onto this back straight flat out run, whatever you want to call it, not so straight to round off sector number 1. Bit of an improvement to the first sector from Avecii, though it doesn't really matter too much. He's just got to find some pace on the hard compound tyres actually. So interesting point to bring up, of course, is the sense that the strategy is going to be of vital importance. We'll take a look as to how things rack up in that regard, if I can again press the right buttons. I'm really not used to this. Pretty unanimous for the mediums, though a couple of outliers on the hard. Same too with Avecii. Obviously Bearmeister as well, Royal, Dino and Unbeaten. However, the bottom 3 all took theirs after their pit stops, whereas the likes of Avecii and Bearmeister took theirs initially from the start of the race. I can understand Bearmeister starting at the back of the grid, wanting to go long, get some track position, get some clear air and really push, and then maybe trying to get the overcut on a couple of cars and catapult himself up further in the field. Take his slow stint now while he is still going to be slow because he's bunched up behind a number of cars. We'll ride on board here though, because here comes David DePay blitzing his way past Avecchi up into 8th place. Got the move done before the braking zone, and well, that was a fairly easy affair for the young Englishman, I think. No, he's Dutch. David DePay's Dutch, is he not? Here we go. Here we go. I'm going to cause some upset for that one. David DePay, is he Dutch? I don't know. He's one or the other. I'm very, very sorry. People's nationalities. It's not something that's explicitly stated on F1 unless you're reading through the race result tab. Actually, can we have a look? Can we have a sneak look? David DePay, is he Dutch? No. I want to have a look at the race director, please. Show me. David, he's Dutch. He's Dutch. He's Dutch. He's Dutch. The young Dutchman. Yeah, there we go. Thank you, Gailey. Yeah, I panicked for a moment. I thought there's loads of English people in here, and there's also loads of people from like Central Europe and things. So I panicked, and he is Dutch. I had to check. Yeah, Gailey. Oops, I know. It's disgraceful. However, what isn't disgraceful is the fact that Lazy Bits Hansen and Snoopy are separated by less than a second. That gives them the DRS advantage, of course. Going the way, of course, of the Mercedes. Mitch GK is about 2.5 seconds back in 3rd, but this could be a breakaway fight between the top two. It could be a crucial fight, maybe, for the championship as well. Bearmeister is Dutch too. Yeah, I knew that much. Anyone else Dutch? I'm thinking. I know Royal and Svamp, or Norwegian, are they not? Something like that. Svamp, actually, speaking of him, has gone round again. Through turn number 12. He's really not having a good day, which is unfortunate to see, but he's now outside of the top 10, which obviously does not help his case moving forward. Turning to the back of the front of the field as well. Lap 5 of 28 ticks back by, and yeah, talking about nationalities, actually, it's just a strange one. I feel bad for getting people's nationalities and stuff wrong. As David DePay works his way past his teammate Josh Morton, they were close and did a swapperoo into turn number 1. Of course, Josh Morton understanding the team game here, the team dynamic at McLaren, and obviously can acknowledge the fact that David is a little bit quicker. The Dutchman able to get his way past, and now going to try and press on and maybe put some pressure for the top 5. Bit of kerfuffle in the background as well as Bearmeister closes in the gap versus Avecchi and towards turn number 6. No moves made for the AlphaTauri, however, very, very close in that fight for first as they run their way through the middle sector. It's all about staying as close as possible, really, with Snoopy and Lazy. You've got to make sure you're close enough to be able to strike. But that Aston Martin, obviously equal car performance, but talking about Aston Martin is in that specific one in the hands of Snoopy. Very, very quick in the middle sector. He's able to get the run off of what is turns 8 and 9 and turns 10 as well, and be able to get himself that margin, so much so that yes, Lazy is still within DRS range and that flap will open and he does close the gap. It's not enough. It's enough of a margin for Snoopy to hang on and keep Lazy at an arm's length, which is vital. It's all about being quick where it counts. All in the background as well, you can see Bearmeister and Avecchi going side by side. Bit of a squeeze for the Aston Martin, but the AlphaTauri, the 87 machine, blitzes his way past and ahead before the braking zone, moves his way up inside the top 8 and, well, eyeing up the move. Josh Morton, maybe. The strategical game will definitely come back into the hands of the AlphaTauri, who will potentially see himself maybe even further up, maybe from last to first, as Jim K25 has boldly predicted. We'll see how bold of a prediction it was, though. Here come the checkered flag once more at the front of the field, but actually, talking of, we've got a bit of a fight in the background. Royal and Mike side by side, two of the admins in the league, of course, fighting it out. There goes Mike up into 13th place. No dives from Royal, though, so easy affair on some fresh medium compound tyres for the Alfa Romeo to get himself up into 13th. Dino also into the mix on the back of the Red Bull. We'll cut our attention back to the front, though, because once again, they're very, very close. Are they close enough? Just watch this gap, though, through this next double left-hand sequence. Snoopy is just so able to get his foot to the floor. Lazy, hesitant, and the gap changes by about good 2-3 tenths. Obviously, Snoopy is using, I think it's either medium or full traction control. Lazy Batanzid is using none. So obviously the confidence is there for Snoopy just to put his foot to the floor and gain on that middle run. And yes, no traction is going to be faster over the course of a lap. But in that particular sector, the confidence that Snoopy has enables him, even on wearing down tyres, to be able to have the grip and to not spin and be able to go flat out, which gains him that time, which allows Lazy, or disallows Lazy I should say, to not have a run. So of course it's not looking good for the Mercedes as it stands, but the race will progress, and of course I'm sure mistakes will happen, creep in some places, because the gap is very, very close as they start lap number 7, weaving around right to left, trying to break the slipstream. The hole in the air, the massive hole in the air that he's punching for Lazy, means that the aerodynamics of the Mercedes doesn't have to work too hard, which means it can have less air resistance, less drag as they call it, and have a bit more top end speed, which allows him to close the gap, and not very, very easily done. Makes his life a lot easier, makes his engine work more efficiently as well. Of course, will make it overheat a little bit more because it's not being cooled as much by the air, but obviously that's not something that EA and Codemasters really care about so much, that they want to simulate. Got all the way through the race, lap 7 to 28 at the end of this lap. Once again through the middle sector, nothing really happening. However, a good fight for the podium could be materialising. A three-way fight between Mitch, Smidge and Chicken Skin, the Ferrari, Alpine and the Williams, of course. That gap between Snoopy and Lazy is as close as it's been for quite some time, in all fairness, through even the double left-hander, so working their way through turns 11 and 12, and then through 13 as well. 0.7 of a second is very, very close, or closer than what it's been. Has he got the energy to deploy to close the gap, though? Is he interested in deploying that energy? Does he want to deploy that energy? We'll see the gap change. The rear wing opens. I don't think the straight's long enough. It's coming down. For sure, it's noticeably coming down, but it's not quite enough. In the background, is there any changes? Not quite. Bit of a DRS train forming because obviously Mitch leads the way. Smidge then gets the DRS off Mitch, and Chicken gets the DRS off Smidge, which negates the advantage that Chicken Skin would get relative to Smidge, because Smidge is getting the same advantage that Chicken Skin is in that regard, if you get what I mean. So it sort of cancels out and means that Chicken Skin is unable to make any advances on Smidge. So it's all down to the Alpine to actually make that ground back up and go for the move to bring Chicken Skin into the equation, unless there's some drastic circumstances where Chicken uses some incredible amount of DRS to catapult his way past. We'll keep an eye on all the fights materialising. Couple of couplets, couple of triplets as well. A three-way fight for 13th place still between Mike, Royal and Dino. And still, Lazy but talented following Snoopy. May be interested just sitting back for the duration of the first stint. Then we'll strike on the hard compound tyres. Maybe he's better on the harder compounder tyres. He's getting a little bit more confident through that middle sector though. Losing little, like a little less time. But still not great, and he needs to be able to stay within that 1 second range. And a bit of a twitch actually from Lazy through turn 11 means that Snoopy is now out of DRS range. Was it before or after the DRS detection point? Because if it was after, this could spell bad news for the Mercedes. Across the line, and no DRS goes the way of Lazy but talented. This could be a breakaway point and a deciding factor in this race for Snoopy, if he's able to keep that advantage. In the background, Smidge versus Mitch. No movement though, but definitely eager. Already the Alpine struggling for ERS deployment. Obviously the flashing red lights on the back of the car will mean that they are under 10% charge, and obviously the energy recovery system works with the hybrid power unit to charge and deploy an extra 160 brake horsepower at the push of a button. Which obviously 160 brake horsepower, probably around about 1.5 times your normal standard road car. Extra to the rear wheels of a Formula 1 car, in excess of around about 1,000 horsepower. For the 1.6 litre V6 turbocharged hybrid power units. So very, very small engines. As Royal moves his way past, as Mike actually tumbles back past the pair. There we go, Lazy back within a 1 second range. Dino ahead now, or was ahead of Mike, who's now sandwiched between the pair of them. Is he going to launch a counter attack on Royal in towards turn number 1? He's close. Is he close enough to go for the move? We'll have a wait and see towards turn number 1. Not quite. So we'll have to sit back for now, but yeah. 1.6 litres, that's, I mean, my first car, my Golf is a 1.9. That's 0.3 of a litre more displacement total than a Formula 1 engine. But obviously the Formula 1 engine has the MGUH, the MGUK, all the hybrid power unit systems, and a lot more brake horsepower total than my little Mark IV Golf from 2002. But yeah, it just goes to show that, you know, sometimes the little ones can actually come in big, and that's what you can do with it more so than anything. 1.6 litres, that's really not much. Between the 6 cylinders, you know, they're only getting a marginal amount, just shy of 0.3 litres of fuel at maximum displacement each. As we turn our attention up, as George moves his way back past Avecii in that fight for 10th. Avecii tumbling his way towards the back, however, is on the hard compound tyres. Keep an eye on Bearmeister as well as he pursues the McLaren duo just in front of him, just in front of that fight, actually about 4 seconds clear of George. Is Avecii going to launch a counter-attack, put some pressure onto the Mercedes? Of course, 2 Aston Martin Mercedes battles materialising, the one at the front and the one towards the back end of the top 10. Obviously, of course, still interested in you guys in the YouTube chat. Make sure to tune in on, the entire 8 of you watching. Thank you, of course, to those of you that are tuning in. It's a pleasure to have you for sure. And I hope you are enjoying all the action that's coming your way here on the League of MVP. Make sure to like, subscribe, turn the bell on for notifications and all that jazz. And, well, sit back in your seats, most importantly, enjoy what could be a sensational fight for the race lead. 0.6 of a second as they run their way through to round off sector number 2. Approaching the halfway point in this race as well. Here's Lazy. Winner last time out, of course, in Austria for the feature race. 7/10 and well within the DRS range. Is 7/10 enough of a gap? Of course, the more he closes, the more exponential that gap closes. So if he's within 7/10, he might gain about 3 kilometers an hour, and then gets within 6/10, it might be at 4, then 5, then 6, then 7, and it closes. The speed increases the closer you get, so it's an exponential curve. And there we go. I think George has had a bit of a spin. Yellow flags through the final sector. He's had a spin at turn 13. Unlucky number 13, unfortunately for George, your Narmbred's girlfriend, as he's very strangely known. I never met her. It's a bizarre name. I've had some bizarre ones in my lifetime, and well, up to the front because the gap is only about 0.3 of a second. But yeah, great bit of battle materialising here. Dino and Royal fighting it out over 14th place as well. No points scored for them. Of course, all the way back down there, but maybe that could change as the race ticks over and carries on. Maybe a late safety car could bring them back into the mix. Potentially, maybe. Who knows? But, well. Fights just in behind as well between Mitch, Smidge and Chicken Skin. Gap is increasing slightly. Smidge dipping out of the 1 second range to keep him within DRS range, but able to then quickly get it back as they run their way through the... Honestly, at face value, it doesn't seem like the trickiest complex in the world. However, that double left-hander, I mean, of turn, I want to say 8 and 9 or 9 and 10. I think it's 9 and 10. But it is a big divider. The confidence that people have is, well, Lazy Batanas, unfortunately, at a DRS range. We'll follow on this fight, though, because DRS is about to open for the Alpine. Has he got the ERS to maybe close the gap? It's closing on that run in towards turn number 14. He looks to the right. Is he going to be brave enough on the brakes? Not quite close enough just yet, so no movement from Smidge, but a good statement to make his name known. In the rearview mirror of Mitch, of course, second place last time out in the feature race, and into the pit lane actually comes a number of our medium runners. Lazy Batanted in, Smidge is in. Maybe trying to go for the undercut, go a lap earlier, get onto some fresh rubber sooner, get those tyres warmed up as the Mercedes is in and out. Quick pit stop for him. Continuing on the rest of the medium runners, Snoopy, Mitch, Chicken Skin and David to pay. Which is going to be the better strategy? Is the track position more important than the warm tyres? We'll have to wait and find out. How worn are those mediums? How much slower are the hards going to be initially, as Mike unfortunately has had a spin for Alfa Romeo towards the back end of the field. Or no, actually that's not Mike, that's Gunslinger towards the back end of the field, unfortunately. So not having the best of races, and was actually meant to be Alfa Romeo's lifeline, as past his teammate goes George, past Lazy but Talented, not being spat out into some clear air here, which could be slowing his teammate down, and there needs to be some tactics employed maybe to allow Lazy through. Is the pace there? Was it the right decision? I don't know, but some traffic is definitely not going to go the way of Lazy. Maybe he's staying out a couple of extra laps to halt the progress of Snoopy. Maybe some team dynamic being brought into there, because Mercedes need to step up in the Constructors' Championship. The gap between Aston Martin and Mercedes are a whole 20 points. Now, Austria, Mercedes were able to close the gap, to be fair, at the last 4 5 races, Mercedes have been closing the gap. Since Hungary, Mercedes have gained points on Aston Martin by quite some significant margins as well. So they want to continue that progress here today and maybe spite some form of championship charge towards the end of the season. We go to Saudi Arabia and Abu Dhabi for the final 2 rounds, rounds 11 and 12 over the course of the next couple of weeks. There goes Lazy But Talented, looking to the inside. Now into the pit lane comes Mitch and Chicken Skin. Burmeister carries on, of course, naturally on that hard compound of tyre. With the flick of the final corner of turn 15. Who's going to come out first? Has George lost a lot of time? He's on the hard compound tyres. Where is the likes of Mitch? He's actually going to come out not too far back. There goes George to the outside of Svamp as they run their way side by side. Bit of contact as well, but swooping his way around the outside of the Red Bull goes the Mercedes. Brilliantly done. Looking still to the inside of turn number 2. Lazy But Talented, his process is halted, but what a move. Committed, brave, bold, and fantastic. But the fight back from Svamp is very much well and truly on. Tucking into the slipstream, trying to find the gap. Defensive goes the Mercedes. He goes to the outside to Svamp. Has he got the move done? Is he brave enough on the brakes? Not quite. Tucks back into slipstream and, well, there we go. Up inside the top 5 goes George, but that is not helping the case of his teammate just in behind, who's in a bid for the race lead. And it's vital that he gets a bit of an undercut. Vital that he gets a move on. Snoopy chilling out there in some clear air, could be putting in some decent lap times and might actually still come out in front of Lazy, and it might not be as close as we once thought. Maybe it could be the margin of a couple of seconds. Oh no, George's hard work is all undone there. A bit of a spin through turn 11 and 12, and unfortunately that sees him back down into 7th place. Lazy But Talented now has to put some pressure onto the Red Bull to try and catapult himself past. Of course, different races these two. Snoopy now into the pit lane, so a race against time between the pair. Side by side as they drag race their way down in towards the penultimate corner, and, well, there we go. Lazy But Talented is ahead. Svamp surely is not going to put up much of a fight for this one. And now, how close is it? We'll follow on with Snoopy. We'll see where he is, leaving the Aston Martin pit stall. Now running his way to the end of the pit lane. Where is Lazy? How close is the gap? Disenabling the 30km/h speed limit, and he is out very, very clear by the margin of a few seconds at the very least. However, he now has a bit of cold tyres to warm up. The gap at the front, provisionally, the net race lead is 2.5 seconds. Snoopy got to be tentative on those cold tyres. Svamp and George halting maybe Lazy's chances in this race. However, the gap is coming down quickly. This is the time for Lazy to strike. But unfortunately, as we say, he didn't have the best of pit stops, and it could have been a good strategy. It looked like he was quicker, in all fairness. The warmer tyres definitely are the way to go. But it wasn't quite the way. A bit wide there from Snoopy, enabling Lazy to close about a second as we get yellow flags through the first sector. That could be Cammy and the Haas. Once again, wide from Snoopy. A couple of mistakes creeping in from the Aston Martin, whether they're intentional or not, maybe to reel Lazy back in and have a good fight as we tick past the halfway point, lap 14 of 28. Through the right. Long sweeping turn 13. Flip down to the floor. DRS open. And this fight is on. Now the fight between Mitch and Smidge as well. Incredibly close between the Alpine and the Ferrari. The Alpine is closing in because a lap fresher tyres might be able to do something with them. Closes the gap, but maybe gets a little bit too eager. David DePay is also into the mix on his fresh hard compound tyres, trying to move up from the back of the field, of course, serving a qualifying ban. So started 15th in this race, did the young Dutchman. Lazy But Talented on the back of Snoopy Dread. Still the gap 0.2 of a second. This fight is back on. And what could have been for Lazy had he just not got stuck behind his teammate for the couple of laps that he had the advantage to do so. However, very, very close, in this race is gearing up. Bit of overcast in the sky. Could be a bit of rain coming potentially, or it could just cool down the track just a little bit. Bit of a lock up there from Lazy. Mistakes like that are definitely going to start to add up as the race continues. But this fight is definitely one to keep an eye on. A Smidge, David DePayne, Mitch all fight over 6th place. It will be 3rd, I believe, from the pit stops following Burmeister, Avecii and Svamp in front. But interesting strategies going the way of the AlphaTauri and the fellow Aston Martin. We'll have to wait and see as to how that works, how that dynamic shifts. Of course, lighter car, fresher tyres as well could definitely be the way to go about things. But Lazy losing a lot of time through that middle sector. Lot of time. Is Smidge close enough to mount an attack? Not quite. Is David DePay close enough to mount an attack? Not quite. Because stuck behind Svamp as Bearmeister's into the pit lane. Chicken Skin on the back of Josh Morton a few places back. Inside line for turn number 14. The McLaren gets the up and under. Not quite good enough though. He moves his way back down to P number 10. The Williams able to get himself ahead. Brilliantly done. And there is the AlphaTauri Bearmeister stuck now between Josh Morton, who swoops his way around the outside. However, the fight back from the AlphaTauri is on. He doesn't want to waste any time on those fresh medium tyres. Already trying to tick one off. Bit of contact as well as they run their way through the final part of turn number 2. Back up towards the front. I mean, you've got Mitch, Svamp and Smidge all separated by nothing, as Mitch is able to put a car between himself and Svamp. Very important for him to do so. Enables him to get a bit more of a breathing space. Because now Smidge has to get past Svamp as well as David DePay, which gives Mitch some time to maybe get away from the medium running Red Bull, who is going very, very long in this race. Mightily long, so fair play for staying on those medium tyres, despite the couple of spins as well. But how his race is going to shift and the dynamic of it as he eventually comes into the pit lane is unknown. Is he still going to be able to score points is still a question. There we go, the move to the inside for the Alpine. Don't often see moves done to the inside of turn 13, but well, you do now. And now the chase is on. Here comes David DePay as well, trying to get himself past the Red Bull. Drag race, both DRS open, but the McLaren has a bit more in terms of his energy deployment stores. He'll be late on the brakes and he'll be able to get himself up easily, surely. Unless Svamp has something to say about it late on the brakes, but he doesn't quite have the grip to go to the outside. So both through, and Mitch's margin is now 8 tenths. Not quite breaking free of the DRS train that he would have hoped for, as into the pit lane comes the Red Bull. But not quite clear of the DRS range that Mitch would have hoped for in that regard, but still, it's a margin and a lap that he was able to get away from the pressure. And there comes Royal unbeaten as well, quite close. Bearmeister on the back of Josh Morton, still trying to find a way through, though stuck and stalled in this DRS train behind Chicken Skin. He needs to try and utilise those medium tyres while he still can. The gap to the leader, I'd say, is around about 10 seconds, give or take. I can have a look. The leader is 13.8 seconds, so the win looking less and less likely, unfortunately, for the AlphaTauri. Unless something shifts now, unless he gets a move on now. Will it be points? Will it be a podium? The gap to that is around about 5 seconds, so maybe 5-6 seconds-ish. Into 11, 12. Back up to the fight with Smidge and Mitch, actually. This gap is really close. Could we see the Alpine maybe go for the move? The fight for, of course, the net podium. The Alpine is closing at rate knots. Defensive goes the Ferrari. Plenty of space on the inside. The Alpine opts to go to the left. Quite close enough and not quite committed enough, actually. Mitch is able to hang on. Defensive driving at its finest. Eventually into the pit lane finally off those 16-lap old hard compound tyres. We'll switch to the mediums to the end of this race. Chicken Skin versus Josh Morton side by side as well, as they're on their way towards turn 15. There goes Bearmeister having a look to the inside of the McLaren. No shifts though. And now down the pit straight once more. Weaving. Bearmeister not happy to the left-hand side. Right-hand side of shot is Josh Morton catapults himself up into 6th place. Is he ahead of the Williams? Indeed he is. What a move that is from the McLaren. Uncontested. And that is the commitment that you like to see, and that are the moves that you like to see around the outside of turn number 1. There goes Bearmeister having a bit of a look as well, trying to follow in situ and well looking to the left-hand side. Outside line, of course, as they work their way downhill slightly. Bit of contact somehow to the back of Josh Morton, who goes in deep. So both of these guys promote themselves up a position, side by side on the run now and towards turn number 7, as the AlphaTauri has the inside line. Surely has got to be the better way through versus Chicken Skin, who's got no answer to that at all. Maybe a bit of lag, netcode, something along those lines versus Bearmeister and Josh Morton. He was sent wide at turn 6 regardless, and or maybe the stewards will have something better to say about that. But from our perspective, he was in a different postcode relative to the McLaren. And the gap at the front is now 3 seconds between Snoopy and Lazy. A further 3 seconds back as this fight for the podium. Is the Alpine close enough this time by? Is Mitch going to be forced to go defensive once more? Riding on board with the Alpine. Right-hand side once more. Goes to the outside, goes the Alpine. Smidge, is he brave enough on the brakes? Is he late enough on the brakes? Not quite. Opens the door for the McLaren to have a look. Here comes David Apey to the inside for P number 4. On that run now towards turn 15, the final corner. And David Apey, opportunistic. What a move that is. Bold, brave, and committed. And now might actually be able to mount a fight for the podium. Mitch has definitely got his work cut out for him versus the young Dutchman, the flying Dutchman of David Apey. But Smidge allowed himself that wide gap on the inside to leave himself vulnerable. Josh Morton has a spin in the background that alleviates a lot of pressure off the shoulders of Bearmeister and Chickedskin. Loses the place to Avecii. But Smidge was allowed that gap to grow on the outside because of the fact that he was stuck. He was beached on the outside. There was nowhere else to go. He couldn't tuck back in. And David was like, yeah, cool, open gap. Going to go to the right-hand side. Going to find my way through. Easy peasy, lemon squeezy. And up now into 4th place and putting that pressure on for the podium. No changes at the front, as I said, because Snoopy and Lazy are quite far apart. No changes a bit further back. So this is the main talking point, the main focus point of this race with just under 10 laps to go. Lap 19 of 28 for the Chinese Grand Prix. The League of MVP season number 7, round number 10 takes to Shanghai, and what a race it's been so far. Thank you to everyone that's been tuning in and leaving their comments throughout the duration of the stream. It's been a pleasure to have you, and hopefully we can have a couple more chats with some drivers after the fact. But once again, now it's the McLaren's go to have a turn. Inside line this time. Mitch can't quite squeeze him enough. He's got the advantage in towards turn number 14. He has the inside line. Who's going to come off better off? Is Mitch got... has David got past, or is Mitch going to try and get the up and under? Not quite. So David into the podium. However, has depleted his entire store of energy. He was down to 8% as we rode on board with him. Defensive now, forced to weave and back to the left-hand side. Bit dangerous there as Mitch sails his way around the outside. This is a move that we often see here at China, but it's not quite enough grip for the Ferrari to hold on to that inside line through turn number 3. So David is able to hang on. However, the pressure well and truly is on. Better traction from the Ferrari as well. Bit of a twitch though, however. Maybe some energy deployment going the way. He's not got any store himself. He's under 10%. So everyone is in conservation mode. They've all bursted through their energy deployment, their battery store, which makes this fight even harder and comes down to sheer pace. David, Mitch and Smidge. Unbeaten signs the fast lap of the race. On 1:35.471, of course, all the way back in P17, so won't be taking a point for it. However, could be taking a point away from another driver and another team if he's able to hang on to it. Mitch is able to lose the DRS from David, which enables Smidge to maybe close the gap in future. Of course, as it stands right now, he's got it and might be able to claw his way back into the zone. I don't think so. I think David now has the podium in his grasp and secure. So from almost last now to 3rd, it's been a fantastic strategy from David. And it's going to take a mistake from Smidge to see Mitch maybe stay inside the top 4 as well. We'll have to wait and see. Only time will tell what the Englishman can do relative to his rivals. Only a handful of laps left into the final quarter of this race. And in all fairness, it's been a really good race. I have enjoyed it. And obviously with it's a shame that the lead fight has sort of diffused a little bit and we're not getting that fight between Snoopy and Lazy, and it does seem that Snoopy is running away with things. But the gap that we had in qualifying really did set us up for the incredible race that we have had so far. A couple of good moves and a couple of committed moves as well. The entire top 14 separated by less than a second is something you don't often get when it comes to Formula 1 and league racing in general. So obviously we've got something special here in the Formula League of MVP. And obviously the race itself, the difference in strategies and things like that. Where is Bearmeister. He's up into 6th place. He's able to get himself past Chicken Skin and actually could see himself in contention for a podium on those fresh mediums. As long as they don't burn out too quickly, this could be an interesting narrative to keep ourselves updated with. There could be the move just in front as Smidge pulls himself to the inside line versus the Ferrari. Goes in a bit hot though, so that could invite Mitch to maybe get underneath him once more on that run towards turn 15. He's not quite been able to get the drive though, his Smidge, to hang on to that move. Bit too eager on the brakes, so Mitch is able to hang on, and meanwhile, the more they fight, the more they bring into said AlphaTauri. Speak of the devil, and he shall appear. And the devil in this turn is the form of Bearmeister, who is probably the last person that these guys would want to see, and David is going to be hoping that they are able to hold him off long enough that he is able to hang on to that podium. In fact, actually, David DePay is closing the gap to Lazy But Talented. This could still be on for both David DePay and for Bearmeister. The gap now between the race leader and the Dutchman in the form of the AlphaTauri, we'll have a look as to the gap. It's now 8.5 seconds. He's closed 5 seconds, and that is with some moves. That is with some slow laps from Bearmeister. If he can get some clear air, time is not on his side, but it could still be on, potentially, maybe. Who knows? If he nails every single lap from now to the end. Don't want to push any false narratives. Don't want to sort of hype up an event that's not going to happen, but there's a possibility, a slim chance that it could happen. Same too in that fight between David DePay, potentially maybe moving himself up as Unbeaten retires in the pit lane. He's really not had a good race following both a qualifying ban and now a retirement from the Chinese Grand Prix. Smidge, Bearmeister, who's close enough? You'd have to argue that Bearmeister might be in striking range because, well, the fresher tyres would give him a bit more of an advantage on the brakes. Pulls out to the right-hand side. Is Smidge close enough to go for a send-in towards turn 14? He's going to go for it late on the brakes. Very committed. He licked the stamp in centre, and there goes Mitch, sending it too much on the throttle. Maybe tagged round by Bearmeister there. He's now sent out of podium contention. Bearmeister sees himself out into 5th, but a very bold and decisive move there from the Alpine. Mitch spun round, able to carry on though, not too big of a loss. However, bit of contact there maybe between himself and Bearmeister. Smidge was so late on the brakes there, I don't know how he's able to get that car stopped. Maybe more an accident than anything. However, it does bring Bearmeister into the mix and promotes him into a place for free. Mike has a spin outside of turn 13, invites his teammate of Gunslinger back past him. But wow, that was a big shift in the storytelling of this race, because, well, I thought Mitch was just an innocent bystander. I don't think he could have done anything more in that sort of turn of events. Bearmeister maybe a bit too eager, maybe just caught out by the slowing Ferrari potentially. I'm sure the stewards will have a look at it, but you have to say Mitch is not going to be too happy with that one. Now the fight is on between Smidge and Bearmeister, also potentially between Lazy and David DePay, because that gap is closing at an absolute rate of knots, and the McLaren trying to recover something for his championship. Having a look actually, just a refresher of the championship standings. David DePay is in 2nd, trying to limit the difference between himself and Snoopy Dread. We'll cut back to that in just a second, because the gap between the AlphaTauri and the Alpine is definitely going to be closing. Inside line now for the 87 machine in towards turn number 14. Late on the brakes. Has he managed to get it stopped? No, he hasn't. Goes in way too deep. Here comes Smidge back up the inside. And now a drag race towards the final corner. Has he got a nose ahead? Potentially so, because the Alpine is struggling for his energy deployment system. Back up the inside comes Bearmeister, hangs on to 4th place, and now his sights are well and truly set on the podium. Does he have the time? Does he have the speed to catch? And now, not only do we have the McLaren versus the Mercedes, we also potentially have the chasing AlphaTauri, the charging bull, coming after the two in front. But of course, David DePay and Lazy But Talented, they're fighting over a championship spot right now. As it stands, Lazy But Talented would take over David DePay in the championship by a single point. Between 2nd and 3rd is a difference of 3 points, 18 to 15. David DePay wants to hang on to that. He also wants to stop Snoopy from getting away in the championship. Between P1 and P2 is 7 points. And that is 7 points that David DePay cannot afford. It would bring the total up to 11. So if it's, as it stands right now, that would be a whole 10, which bring it up to 14. Or, yeah, 14 points. Which is obviously not what he wants. And now, 4.5 tenths between the two. This is a fight to watch. This is a fight that neither driver is going to want to lose. However, one of them has to. Snoopy seems certain to win the race. Has the McLaren got the legs on the straight? Has Lazy got the ability to defend? In the middle of the circuit, he's going to be under a world of pressure. The McLaren is practically pushing him now down the back straight. Both struggling for ERS deployment. To the right-hand side goes David Depay. Is he ahead before the braking zone? Is there any attack from the Mercedes? No, there's not. Into second place. And now, the chase is on. Can he get after him? Is he able to get after him? And does he have the time to get after him? Lazy but talented demoted to third place, and David Depay is having the race of his life. Same to a Bearmeister in all fairness. Both of them really, really impressive as Josh Morton and George have a bit of a fight, a bit of a tussle. Paul pushed wide to the extremities of the circuit is the McLaren, however, still side by side potentially. And there goes George up into ninth place. He's not had the best of races, unfortunately. But it's still been pretty good. And now, here comes Lazy, maybe launching a counter-attack. Not on the same straight, but the couple of straights after. Weaving, ducking, diving, trying to find the space. No way through for now. So it does seem like they're anchoring down in this fight for second. We'll cut our way back, actually, to that fight for ninth. There's George and Josh. Still close, not quite close enough, really, for anything to happen. As Bearmeister closes the gap to Lazy but talented. Now the gap 2.7 seconds. So if Lazy tries to launch a counter-attack and fight with the McLaren, we could see a shift into 10, 11, 12. 4 laps left, or 3 laps left I should say, 26, 7 and 8 as Snoopy is in the final sector, so you can't really count 25 as a lap. Riding on board with the Mercedes, he's got a little bit in store. The McLaren knows that, left, right, breaking the slipstream as much as possible, still closing the gap though, not quite close enough. Bit of a look, but very much half-hearted. Able to stay close enough to put the pressure on thanks to the drag reduction system, the rear wing opening, a little flap to minimise the drag and to allow a steady current of air through to minimise that air resistance and give them more top-end speed. Couple that with a bit of slipstream and triple that with a bit of ERS and you are going to be absolutely flying your way down that back straight. However, Lazy but talented might soon find himself between a rock and a hard place. Avecii and Gunslinger as well have time penalties. Avecii's for ignoring a yellow flag. That means he's overtaken someone during a yellow flag period, where you're not meant to. Yellow flag, obviously, is the caution. Obviously something's happened, or like a spin, or a car stopped on circuit, and you need to be careful of that. And not overtake, obviously overtaken, very dangerous, could lead someone off into the path of said stopped or slow car. So yellow flags are very much a caution zone, which is understandable that the penalty has been brought out for Avecii. However, sometimes it's a little bit questionable, a little bit borderline. Gunslingers, however, is there a track limit incursions. That means he's exceeded the track limits on 3 occasions, which sees himself take himself a 3-second time penalty that'll be added on to the end of his race. Mike and Royal fighting over P14. They've been jostling all race long, and Royal settles in behind the Alfa Romeo, who parks it there through turn 2 into 3. Back to the front, 1.2 seconds now is the gap between the AlphaTauri and the Mercedes. Points that Mercedes can't afford to lose, because right now they are losing a ton of points relative to Aston Martin. 25 plus 4 so far for Aston Martin, so 29 as opposed to 2 and 15, so 17. So a 12-point swing in the championship going the way of Aston Martin so far. And Lazy does not want to bring that total to 14, I believe it would be, if he drops down to 4th. Again, never trust a commentator's maths. We don't know what we're talking about at all, as Roy gets himself a 3-second time penalty, ruins that fight between himself as he actually retires from the session. A bit of a crash on circuit. It's too late in the race to bring out a virtual safety car or a safety car, so it is just going to be a cautionary period through that section of the circuit. Unfortunately, no safety car out on circuit. It's not like real life F1 where you can finish under a safety car, thankfully. Mitch is also close on the back of Smidge in that fight for 5th. He's been able to claw his way back into contention, so we might see a fight materialising here for the top 5, as it's a good foundation. Obviously, not only is it 2 extra points going the way of the Ferrari, it's also saying, I finished inside the top 5. Obviously, you have different milestones. You have the win, then you have a podium. Unless you're in a championship, 2nd or 3rd, it's still a podium, doesn't really matter. Top 5, again, 4th or 5th, doesn't really matter. Then you have the top 10. Top 10 sounds nice. You don't really say top 11, you say the top 10. So it sounds nice to get yourself into that threshold. So top 5 is going to be a milestone that Mitch wants, and obviously the added bonus of a couple of extra points going his way. Is he close enough? Has he got the capacity to? I don't think so. Both of them starved a VRS. Gunslinger also retiring from the session in the pit lane, so we've lost 3 cars. Gunslinger, Royal and Unbeaten, all due to, well, a couple of them due to pit lane retirements. One, of course, in the form of Roy. And now, Burmeister on the back. Final lap of this race then. And, oh my word, I'm looking forward to this. Could it be a barnstormer of a finish? Because Burmeister versus Lazy versus David DePay, 3-way fight for second place. Snoopy 5 seconds in front. He is clear. He has won this race, provided he makes no mistakes between now and the checkered flag. However, 12 lap old mediums. He's been charging since the pit stops. Could Burmeister get himself not only onto the podium but also into the second place spot as well? Lap 28 of 28. Lazy, his last ditch effort to maybe launch an attack. He's got a little bit in the ERS bank. Same to, well, actually not same to for those in front. Burmeister's got the advantage. We'll follow on with Snoopy Jet and see where he crosses the line. But David exits the third to last corner, turn 13 for the final time. He goes defensive just as a precautionary measure. I don't think it's going to go the way of Burmeister getting himself up in a second, but he might still be able to get himself up into third. Going into the final corner now is Snoopy, but into the penultimate corner goes the Alpha Tower to the outside. Lazy but Talented comes back up the inside, too wide as they run their way through, able to hang on, and now through the final corner to take the checkered flag. Snoopy Jet, the Frenchman, to extend his championship lead, victorious here in China. 5 seconds clear of the rest of the field. Here comes David DePay in second. Lazy but Talented able to hang on to third place. Burmeister fourth. Smidge a few seconds later in fifth. We've lost Mitch. He's fallen his way out of contention. Chicken Skin comes home sixth. Avecii will see himself behind Mitch after that yellow flag penalty provisionally. Or will he? Actually, he might be able to hang on by a few tenths of a second. Mitch in eighth. And George, side-by-side drag race. George gets it. P8 for the Mercedes. Limits the distance in that gap between Mercedes and Aston Martin. Josh Morton, the top 10, Svamp, Cami, Dino, and Mike. Brilliant, brilliant race. Bit of complaint in the Discord from Burmeister saying there was no space left from Lazy on the final lap. However, I disagree. I think there was plenty given. There was a car's width. GG to the podium, of course. Everyone in the Discord are welcome to jump themselves into the interview chat. We'll run you way through the finishing order then of the Chinese Grand Prix before we hopefully take a quick look at the interviews. Maybe they might work. We'll have to wait and see. We'll have a look as to who comes out on top. And there we go. The Frenchman of Snoopy takes the victory from P1 to P1. However, that did not tell the full story, because, well, he definitely had a lot of pressure, was able to control the second stint, though, and take his way to yet another victory in this season. David DePay from 15th on the grid limits the damage in the championship and gets his way up into second. Lazy but Talented rounds off the podium with Burmeister and Smidge, your top 5. Chicken Skin in P6 with Avecii and George 7th and 8th. Mitch and Josh round off your top 10 in the point scorers for this race, with Svamp unfortunately a poor showing for Red Bull in terms of race pace and consistency. Sees himself only 11th. Cami P12, Dino P13 with Mike in 14th. Gunslinger 15th. Royal comes home in 16th with Unbeaten Sign rounding off your field. And, well, we've got David DePay in the Discord channel, and, well, we'll grab a word with him in just a second. David, welcome in, of course. Well done on your result. We've also got Mike jumping into the YouTube chat as well, so I'll have a word with everyone that we can do. But obviously, David, fantastic job today from the back of the field, pretty much. I mean, must have been a really fun race from your end.
Hello.
Hello, hello.
Hey, how's it going, Zach? You good?
Yeah, definitely not too bad.
Uh,
Am I heard
Hi,
from
guys.
Am I heard from David now? Can I hear him?
Yeah, do you hear me?
Here we go. There we go.
Ah,
Welcome in.
hi, nice.
Obviously, as I was saying, well done for your race today.
Yeah,
I think
thanks.
it was a very good result. From 15th on the grid, you did a very, very good job. But
Yeah,
talk us through the race from your perspective. It must have been a fun one.
yeah, I think it was a good race. Of course, with quite a mess into turn one. I had to avoid some accidents, but I think I was around P9 after turn one, and just from there on, just controlling my pace, and I think I had a good overcut over Smitch, I think it was, or Chicken Skin, and then just passed both Smitch and Mitch, and then the overtake on Lazy. So yeah, intense and a great race at the same time. So yeah, really happy with the result.
For sure. Well, best of luck to you for the rest of the season. And talking of the rest of the season, the final couple of rounds, you're in second place in the championship. You really have done well to recover, of course. And today, I'm sure, was more a damage limitation thing with Snoopy winning the race. The gap after this race will increase to 11 points. Are you still confident in the fact you can get yourself a championship?
Yeah, definitely. I think with Saudi and Abu Dhabi coming up, I think those are two great tracks for me. Of course, Saudi is more going to be like a lottery than a race itself. But nah, I think I'm quite confident to still get the championship. Yeah.
Well, I definitely wish you the best of luck for the rest of the season.
Yes,
I'm glad the interviews have worked out well, and maybe we'll see you back
yeah.
in the commentary booth in a week's time. Thank you very much.
Yeah, thanks, glad, thanks.
David Depay, second place in the Chinese Grand Prix. What we'll do is take a quick word with Lazy But Talented, of course, third place in this race for Mercedes. Lazy, can you hear me?
Yeah, I can, yeah.
Definitely. Well, fantastic. I mean, a good initial start. Obviously, you put some good pressure on Snoopy, but beyond that, I think you fell back just a little bit during the second stint. Do you want to talk us through your race from your perspective? It must have been a bit of a frustrating one to nearly have him at some point.
Yeah, I mean, I was really, really disappointed with the race overall. I think I had the pace to win. I think on the mediums, I honestly had a little more pace than Snoop, and I was just managing that gap. Just trying to stay behind and just build ERS as much as I can, so that when I went in, I had more on his trying to catch up on the outlaps. But yeah, the undercut. I went for the undercut by a couple of laps, and it really didn't work out for me. Got stuck in a battle between my teammate and Svampy, I think it was. So it really hindered me a lot. But managed to catch back up to Snoopy, but I drained so much ERS to try and get back up to him that like I was well off the pace for the rest of it. So really just not ideal. So it was.
Well, it's done and dusted, I suppose. I mean, what can you do? It's still a podium at the end of the day. Still good points going your way. But looking to the rest of the season, same with David. I mean, the championship, it is very, very close between the top three. Are you still confident with Saudi and Abu Dhabi that you can stay in contention?
I mean, Saudi's a track that I really love and enjoy the race. So I'll be hopefully be up there somewhere in Saudi. Abu Dhabi isn't my best, but I'm happy enough with it. So yeah, so looking forward to the next couple of races and see what happens.
Well, thank you very much for joining me in the commentary booth. And well, again, as I say, thankfully the interviews have worked. So maybe we'll see you in the commentary booth in the future. But in the meantime, take care and well, best of luck for the rest of the season.
Yeah, hope so. Thanks, Zach. Enjoy your night.
And you, very much so. We got a couple more people in the commentary booth waiting for an interview. We got the likes of Cammy, Roy, Svamp, and Mike all waiting to have their say. We'll start, I'd say maybe we'll go with Cammy if he's here. If you're available for a quick chat, can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Here we go. Well, not the best race for you, unfortunately. Good qualifying though. So do you want to talk us through your event?
Yeah, qualifying was really good. I think that was my best qualifying result in the league. So, I mean, I was really happy to start off with. Then we got into the race and I had a slow start off the line. And then I was sort of in the middle of a wee bit of a sandwich going into the first turn. So I was trying to give Gunslinger space on my right, and then George clipped the back of me. Gunslinger kind of saved me. He kind of just punted me back in, going straight again. But then there was a second contact with George as he was passing me, which unfortunately I wasn't as lucky with. And then I spun around, and from there I really needed a safety car to save my race because I had damage to my front wing. I had to pit on the first lap. So without a safety car, it was sort of just a nice Sunday drive. I felt like I had good pace, like good race pace. I feel like if I didn't get caught up in it, maybe I could have been in within a shout for the top 5. But yeah, just how it goes.
Yeah, that's racing. I suppose it's the
Mm.
the reason why we love and hate it in some cases.
Yeah.
But yeah, looking forward to the rest of the season. Again, 2 rounds left to go. Whatever, you know, sort of championship aspirations that you have, maybe in that fight for the midfield. Are you feeling confident for the final 2 rounds in the Middle East?
Well, for Jeddah, I haven't actually raced there probably since the game's release, so it's kind of uncertain how I'll do there. I'll just see how the practice goes during the week. But Abu Dhabi, in the past, in the old cars, I've done quite well there. I think the only podium I've ever had in a league race was in Abu Dhabi. But again, I've not really had much practice there, so sort of have to see how it goes in the midweek practicing, and then see what I can do on Sunday.
Well, we wish you the best of luck, of course, and well, fingers crossed. Maybe you'll be back in for an interview in a week or two's time. But in the meantime, best of luck for the rest of the season. I wish you the best of luck.
Yep. Cheers.
Thank you very much. That was Cammy, of course. Then it didn't have the best of race, unfortunately, for Haas, but a very good qualifying, and the positivity is there. The final interview then we'll take for today is Roy for Red Bull. Roy, can you hear me?
Evening, Zach. How are you doing?
Not too bad, not too bad. A very, very good race. Unfortunately, not the best of races from your part, but it looked up and then it looked down. But it seemed like you had a good bit of a fight at the back of the pack. I mean, you and Mike were swapping places like there was no tomorrow. So talk us through your race.
It's a good race, stretching it a bit. I mean, I had the turn 1 incident like last week. I got wing damage in turn 1 from, I think it was Mike spinning around. And then unfortunately the virtual safety car only triggered. So basically when I did the pit for the hards, I was already like a pit stop behind everyone else. And then I was waiting for like a last safety car to maybe pit for another fresh soft or fresh medium. But like Cammy, the safety car never arrived. So I was kind of stuck in the middle of nowhere, fighting a bit with Mike, but kind of like pointless for P13 or P12, whatever it was.
Yeah.
But yeah, it is what it is.
It is what it is, I suppose. That's all you really can do. It's in the past.
Yeah.
And looking forward, I mean, I suppose China is a circuit that not really many people are familiar with. We've not really had it properly on a game for a couple of years and not really had much experience of it. But Saudi Arabia, Abu Dhabi, they are 2 circuits that we are a bit more familiar with. I mean, the new rendition of Abu Dhabi, of course, for this game, and obviously Saudi Arabia coming in midway through last game. They are sort of newer circuits, but circuits that, for the most part, you are more familiar with. Are you sort of looking forward to the last couple of rounds of the season, or are you sad to see it end?
To be fair, I mean, Abu Dhabi is not the worst track. I think it's going to be interesting with the new layout of the track and some overtaking opportunities. So this track I look forward to, but the Saudi is going to be a tricky one. I don't mind these high speed. I don't like these high speed chicanes coming in the sector 2, I believe it is. So I don't know how we're gonna do for that one, but yeah, I don't know. We'll see if we can manage for Red Bull to scrap a couple of points before the season finish.
Fingers crossed. Well, of course, as I've said to everyone, I wish you the best of luck for the rest of the season, and take care. And maybe we'll see you back in the commentary booth in a week or so's time. Take care.
Thank you, Zach. Have a good evening.
And you, of course. That was Roy, of course. Kind of in charge of the runnings here for the League of MVP. Fortunately, his admin skills are a lot better than his on-track skills. As he's still here, he can still hear me, so there we go, bit of a dig. Anyway, that is going to, unfortunately, end proceedings here for the League of MVP Season 7, round number 10. We took to Shanghai for the Chinese Grand Prix. It's been an absolute pleasure to talk you all through the action. 28 laps, over 18 minutes in qualifying as well, of course. My name has been Zach Sweeney, and, well, it's been a pleasure to have you in the YouTube chat commenting along, and, well, hopefully the final 2 rounds of the season will be equally as good as the season we've had so far. The championship comes down to only 2 more races: Saudi Arabia, Abu Dhabi, and a tight fight in the constructors and in the drivers as well. Who's going to come out on top? Only time will tell. In the meantime, take care and a very warm bye-bye.